everyone, it's Lisa Ross, though you may know me better as Paper Daisy Creations. And today I'm going to be showing you how to work the Honeybees pattern. This is such a unique stitch pattern, and it's not difficult to work, but it does require a lot of steps. So we're going to work through it together. I've used worsted weight yarn, and so mine actually looks a lot different than yours is going to look. In fingering weight yarn, it creates this really beautiful, lacy, open work and a really unique stitch pattern. But we're creating these little honeybees, sort of heart-shaped honeybees that will be stacked on top of one another. And then next to it, we've got a little bit of lace just traveling up the sides, sort of the path that the honeybee might take. So let's get started. Now, I am working a little swatch here, so it's going to be a bit different than yours because I don't have the shaping to contend with. Okay, but I'm up to the first repeat. So what I'm showing you now are going to be the 16 stitches that are bracketed in your written instructions. This stitch pattern is not all that complicated to work, but it would look very complicated if written out as a chart, which is why I've opted to include written only instructions, but I'm going to work you through each of the steps. So if you're using markers, this is a good place to put one. And I'm going to purl one, yarn over, SSK. I work a modified SSK where I only slip the first stitch knitwise, but that's entirely up to you how you work your SSK. Then I'm going to purl one. All right, now I'm up to the honeybees section, and to work the honeybees, I'm going to knit 4, then I'm going to knit 2 together. Now, in this particular instance, I have already worked a set of honeybees. So if you have a set of honeybees that you're working off of, what we're doing is these 2 center stitches are going to be, the one on the right will be knit together with the next stitch, and then we'll work a yarn over and then an SSK. So it's a good way to see it, to read your knitting to make sure you're in the right place if you are working a subsequent set of honeybees. So I'm going to knit 2 together, yarn over, and then SSK. From here, I knit 4, and I'm at the end of my bracketed instructions. And so if you are using markers, place a marker right here because it's the set of a new repeat. I'll work this little lace pattern. So I purl 1, yarn over, SSK, purl 1, and time for the honeybees. I knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to check to be sure that I'm in the correct spot. So down here, coming out of this large hole, I have 2 stitches, 1 and 2. I need to be sure that I'm knitting together the right one with that first stitch on the needle. So I'm doing a knit 2 together, yarn over, SSK. Then I knit 4. And I'm ending my repeat right here. But of course, after you do that knit 4, you can place a marker if you are placing markers to indicate the bracketed instructions. All right, so that is step 1. Now, the honeybees, again, they're not difficult to work, but they do require both right side and wrong side working. So I'm flipping over to the wrong side. I'm going to work my edge stitches, and then I'm going to follow those bracketed instructions once I get to the marker if I'm using markers, which is right now. All right, I'm going to purl 3, and now I'm going to purl 2 together through the back loop. Most of you probably know how to purl 2 together, but you may not have done purl 2 together through the back loop. So I'm going to show you how to do it. But first, let me say, if you find purl 2 together through the back loop to be too challenging, it's completely fine to work this stitch as a purl 2 together. It will not look as symmetrical on the right side, but that's totally up to you. It's a design decision that you can absolutely make. So to purl 2 together through the back loop, going through the back loop, I'm going to start by going through this second stitch and then the first stitch, and I'm going to go through this way. So let me show you what that looks like. It's hard to know if you can see this well through the video. So I'm going to do it a couple times. So it comes through like this. And let me show you that again. So going through these 2 stitches, the second stitch first, and then I'm going to purl those 2 together like so. All right, and that is going to match up with my SSK on this other side so that it looks like I worked an SSK. Purl 2 together through the back loop is the wrong side version of the SSK. All right, so I've purled 2 together through the back loop. Now I'm going to drop this yarn over. So I'm not working it, I'm going to drop it, and then I'm going to yarn over twice. So I'm going to do 1, 2 yarn overs. That's going to give me a longer strand than just a single yarn over. Next, I purl 2 together. Then I purl 3. I'm on the wrong side of this wiggly lace. I'm going to knit 1, purl 2, knit 1. And I'm back to my honeybees. So I'm going to purl 3. I'm going to purl 2 together through the back loop. So I go into these 2 stitches, beginning with the second stitch through the back loop. Be very careful not to split any strands. I drop the yarn over. I work a double yarn over. I purl 2 together. And then I purl 3. I'm going to finish up the back of this lace. So I knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, and I'm working my edge stitches. And I am ready to work the next right side row. All right, on this one, so this will be the 3rd row of the set of honeybees, but it varies in row number depending on which repeat you are working on. The first time that you're working this is row 11. So I'm going to knit my edge stitches. I did a purl 1, K2 together, yarn over, purl 1, and I'm at my honeybees. Here I'm going to knit 2, K2 together. I drop these yarn overs. Can you see those 2 yarn overs? I'm dropping both of them. And I'm going to work a triple yarn over 1, 2, 3 times, and then SSK. Knit 2, and I'm at my next repeat. Purl 1, K2 together, yarn over, purl 1, I'm going to knit 2, I K2 together, and you can see how this is my slanting stitch right here. I'm continuing that pattern, knitting those 2 stitches together to keep it slanted. I'm going to drop my double yarn over, and I work a triple yarn over. 1, 2, 3 stitches, or 3 yarn overs, sorry. Then an SSK, that continues my patterning that I was working on both the right side and the wrong side. I knit 2, And that would be the end of those bracketed instructions. Now, before I turn it to the wrong side, I want to show you what it looks like. It's going to look messy. It's going to have this large open gap right here, and it looks kind of ugly, but I promise you we're going to make it look like a beautiful little honeybee coming up. All right, I'm on to the wrong side. Let me work my edge stitches. And then I'm working the honeybee. So I'm going to do a purl 1. I purl 2 together through the back loop. So I'm going into this second stitch first from the back, then the first stitch, then I purl those 2 together. Remember, if that stitch is difficult to make, because it is one of the more challenging knitting stitches, you can always substitute it with just a purl 2 together and it'll be fine. All right, I'm going to drop these yarn overs. I'm going to yarn over 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I purl 2 together, purl 1. Knit 1, purl 2, knit 1. You can see how those lines of ribbing are all lining up on the wrong side. I'm going to purl 1, purl 2 together through the back loop. So go into these stitches, second stitch first, purl 2 together through the back loop, drop my triple yarn over, and I'm going to do a quadruple yarn over. 1, 2, 3, 4, purl 2 together, purl 1, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, and that's the end of that repeat. All right, I'm going to show you this again. Look how ugly it looks at the moment. We have all these strands coming out in a large hole right there that we need to close up. So I'm working, if this is your first repeat of the honeybees, this would be row 13. I'm going to work my edge stitches and then begin the repeat, which is purl 1, yarn over, SSK, purl 1, and then I'm going to work the honeybees. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to be working one more knit 2 together. I'm going to be casting on stitches and dropping these extra yarn overs, and I'm going to be collecting all of these strands together. So let me show you what we do. We work a knit 2 together. Then I drop all 4 of those yarn overs. And now I'm going to cast on 4 stitches. I like to use a backward loop cast on, and all I'm doing to create a backward loop cast on is twisting this yarn and putting it on the needles. You just need to twist the yarn and put it on the needles. And let me show you how I like to do it. I just take my finger and point it downward and go onto the needle like this. You could just pick up the yarn and twist it and put it on like that, and then tighten it up. My quickest way is just pointing my finger down and going into this stitch. That's going to be my fastest way of a backward loop cast on. So I've cast on 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. And now I'm ready to collect all of these loose strands. So in order to do that, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 strands, and I need to collect them all by going into that very bottom hole. It's right below that very first yarn over that we did. So make sure that you have 4 strands, and below those 4 strands, you're going into the hole that's right below the 4th strand. So go in, and you're going to knit that stitch, pull it up. Don't keep it super tight. We want to pull it up even with the rest of our stitches. Then you're going to yarn over and go into that same hole and knit it again, like this. And that is a KYOK worked into the hole that's below all 4 strands. And I'm going to show you that all one more time. So I have 4 strands. I'm going into the hole below the 4th strand, and I'm going to knit, yarn over, knit. So I go in and I pull up a first knit stitch and pull it up. You don't want to keep it super tight. You want it to be in line with the rest of your stitches by giving it a little bit of extra length. Yarn over, go back into the hole, and knit it one more time, pulling it up so that you've got some nice even stitches. So it was a KYOK, knit, yarn over, knit. And now I'm going to cast on 4 more stitches. Use the backward loop cast on. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. And I'm ready to work an SSK. Purl 1, yarn over, SSK, purl 1, and I'm working my next honeybee. So I'm going to begin with a knit 2 together. I drop all of these 4 yarn overs. I'm going to cast on 4 stitches. So remember, you can just take the yarn and twist it once. It only has to have 1 X in it, and put it on your needle. Or the way I do it is I just take my finger and twist the yarn that way. There's 2, 3, 4. And now I'm ready to work my knit, yarn over, knit. So you should have 4 strands, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they go from longest to shortest. Right below that shortest strand, it's underneath the 4th strand, I go in and I work a knit, yarn over, go back into that same hole, knit. KYOK. I'm ready to cast on 4 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to work an SSK, and that ends that bracket. All right, there's one final row of the honeybees, which will have 1 more decrease in it. So I'm going to flip it over to the wrong side. If this is your first repeat, you are working row 14. You are going to work your edge stitches as they're written. And I'm up to the bracketed instructions. So I'm going to purl 5. 1, 2, 3, and you'll notice that I am purling these backward loop cast on stitches, which can be a little bit tricky to purl. The first time that you work those stitches, they just try to stretch themselves out of shape. So just keep that in mind. So I've worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 purl stitches, and now I'm going to purl 2 together, the first 2 stitches from this KYOK. So on the right side, we had worked this as KYOK. These first 2 stitches, which includes 1 of those knit stitches and the yarn over, they're going to be purl 2 together. So I'm going to purl those 2 together. Then I'm going to purl 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I'm working over to the next honeybee. Knit. Okay, I'm up to this next honeybee. You can see all of these cast on stitches, that KYOK right in the middle. I'm going to purl 5. So the first one that I'm purling was my SSK on the other side. So I'm going to purl 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you are reading your knitting, you're going to be purling these 2 together. This yarn over purled together with that first, it was the knit stitch on the right side. So I'm going to purl those two together. Then I'm going to purl 6. I knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, and I'm working my edge stitches. All right, and here we have a finished set of honeybees. They should all be in a line right above one another. And then in between, we've got this lovely lace pattern wiggling its way up, just like the little bee dance. And keep in mind, yours will look a little bit different if you're using fingering weight yarn. It should be nice, light, airy, beautiful open work. This was one of the favorite stitches from all of my testers. I really enjoyed this stitch, and I hope that you do too. If you struggle with it at all, be sure to jump into the knit along chats, because there are lots of people who are able to help. And I knit one particular way, but there are knitters all over the world who knit all different ways, and they may have advice or suggestions or ideas or tips or tricks that help them to understand a stitch pattern that was new to them, and they may be able to help you much better than I can. Keep in mind, if you follow this for the second repeat of the honeybees, the lace pattern that wiggles its way up here is going to be in the opposite direction. The way that the stitch counts work is that every other set will work out to be like this. So for example, when you're working the first bracketed instructions on the second set of honeybees, this would begin not with a yarn over SSK. It would actually begin with K2 together, yarn over for that little wiggly part right there. You can find this pattern and all of my patterns on paperdaisycreations.com and on ravelry.com. And as always, I wish you very happy knitting.